Hi everybody! Sexy. Hi everybody, welcome to my Booktube-A-Thon Wrap-Up video. So this year's Booktube-A-Thon actually went a lot better than I thought, and I completed a ton of challenges. So here's just a quick rundown of all the books I read this week. So the first challenge was to read a book with pictures, and I doubled that one up with the book from the least read genre this year, and there's just a whole lot of cheating happening here because I changed my TBR and I decided that the book like the least read genre would be mermaid, and that totally is a genre now because I'm making it one. And so I read for both of these challenges Jennifer Donnelly's Deep Blue, the first book in the mermaid, Waterfire Saga series. And the picture part of this is that at the beginning of every chapter they have like a waves for a heading. That is a picture of waves. Totally legit. So as for this book, I was royally disappointed by this. Really just juvenile writing, juvenile plot, and just no character development. The characters were dull and unimaginative and really boring. I mentioned this in one of my update videos. There are so many like puns made with water related things such as currency or transparency and do you have froth and sea foam in your ears, girl, or something like that. Like just a whole bunch of things like that. That was actually kind of funny at times. Like I laughed out loud at that, but I'm not sure if the book was trying to take itself seriously there or if it was just literally kind of, being funny. I don't know. I hope it was trying to be funny, because if that was supposed to be serious, then I don't know what. The only good thing I could say about this book is that it's kind of feministic. Is that a word? Feminist? There's very little romance. There are 6 main characters and they're all girls and they're like fighting and it's like girl power, and that's good. I always want to commend that, but other than that, there's just nothing to it. There's no substance, no anything. Challenge number 2 was to read a book with red on the cover, and for this I again changed my TBR because I read Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. This is the special collector's edition and it's really beautiful and so pretty, and this book was fantastic. I loved it. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did, to be quite honest, because I'm not a big fan of fanfiction. I just can't buy into it. I can't take it seriously. But this is really good. And oh, Levi, oh my god, can you be my boyfriend? Oh, maybe not, because I kind of can't stand people with social skills. That could be a deal breaker. The one and only challenge that I didn't manage to finish was to start and finish a series, and that's not my fault. That's Amazon's fault because they suck. I read the first book. I'm not sure what this series is called, if it has a name, but it's the first book is called Cursed by David Wellington, and the sequel is Ravaged, and it's a duology. I don't think there's a third book. This is like a werewolf story, and I really enjoyed this. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed this. It's not YA, it's definitely adult, and it's just kind of, gritty and gruesome at times, but also really cool. I like just everything about this. Basically, this is about a woman who is bitten by a werewolf and then turns into a werewolf, and then she first tries to kill the guy who turned her, and then it turns out that they kind of need to help each other because apparently werewolves are like a widely accepted thing. Like it's like a branch of the CIA that's trying to find out more about lycanthropes. This is just taken as a fact in this book that there are such things as lycanthropes. Like, there's no question there. And I can't wait to read the sequel, which it arrived today. I just have to go pick it up at the post office, so I'm gonna continue this and definitely find out more. It's really cool. There's no romance so far. There's just been hints at romance, but no actual romance, and I appreciate that. I do. The next challenge was to read a book that someone else picked for you, and for this I got lucky because I just put my little sister in front of my TBR and she just picked a random book, and it was The Other Typist by Suzanne Rindal, which I've been wanting to read for a very long time because a friend of mine read it and she just raved about it. It was so good. The end was a mindfuck, and I in parts agree with her. The book centers around Rose, who works at a police precinct as a typist, and then Odalie comes into the picture and she's a new typist at the same police precinct, and then Rose kind of gets obsessed with Odalie and like things just get crazy. And this book is set in 1924, So it's the height of prohibition in New York City, in just New York City. While the ending of this was very crazy and kind of came as a surprise, there was just too much foreshadowing going on in this book. There is just red herrings everywhere, and they start to become so copious that you're just like, I just don't believe anything that I'm being told here. It was a good book, but just not as good as it could have been. I don't even know if I'm doing these in the correct order, but the next challenge was to read a book that has also been turned into a movie, and for this I picked Life of Pi by Ian Martell, and I also watched the movie last night, and like the last 2 hours of the Booktube-A-Thon, so yes, I totally finished it after midnight. Shh. This book is centered around a 16-year-old boy named Pi whose family owns a zoo, and then they have to transport the zoo, like the animals, to a new place in Canada where they're gonna live now. And while they're on the boat, they shipwreck, and Pi is stuck on a lifeboat with a tiger, a hyena, an orangutan, and a zebra. Did I miss anybody? No. The book consists of 3 parts. So the first part is like kind of his life story before he leaves for Canada, and part 2 is when he's on the boat and on the lifeboat, and then part 3 is after like he returns to Canada, after he like ends up in Canada eventually, and like him telling this to journalists and the police and stuff like that. You know from the beginning that he's gonna make it, so this is not a spoiler. You know, like from page 1 that he doesn't die on that boat. And yeah, there's a plot twist in the end that I already knew was coming, but I still didn't know the detail in which it was going to be described, and that was just like, oh my god. Part 1 was slightly slower, part 2 was long and extensive and very detailed, but at least it was interesting, and then part 3 was just like, what? 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 All in all, it was a really good book. I enjoyed it a ton. Someone told me in like my last video, I believe, that actually Life of Pi is apparently kind of a plagiarized version of a book called Max and the Cats by, I cannot pronounce his name and I also can't remember it, but it's a Brazilian author. And apparently his story is something from like a boy escaping from Germany and going to Brazil, and also there's like animals, like there's like a panther. Is there a panther? Or some other kind of cat animal. Cat animal is totally a word. There's like a ridiculous amount of parallels. I haven't read Max and the Cats yet, but now I kind of want to because it would be interesting to see the comparison. The movie of Life of Pi was also pretty good, except that it gave me so much anxiety. Like, oh my god, I couldn't handle the ocean scenes. I was just like, oh my god, he's gonna die. There's so much water. Like, cause I always like imagine myself in that situation, like, oh my god, I would fucking kill myself because I would just die of anxiety anyway. Like, I don't think I'd die of thirst or hunger or any kind of sicknesses, or I would drown. I'd just die of anxiety. Now, that was only 5 books. The final challenge was to read 7 books, and so I read another 2, and the first one was Slated by Terry, which is so good. Like, how have I not read this before? How did I manage to just ignore the existence of this book because it is so good? I thought before I read this I was kind of over dystopian. I'm not, just telling you, I'm not. I'm over bad dystopian, but this is good dystopian. I really like it. I just really can't stand Ben, so yeah, I have hopes for book 2 that I will not share with you because there might be spoilers, but I hope that bad things happen to him. This is like the first book ever where I hope there's gonna be a love triangle just so we can get someone else in there that isn't Ben. And for the 7th book, I read Knifed by Mallory Blackman, the sequel to Knots and Crosses, and oh my god, I cannot stop thinking about this book. I finished it, like I read this yesterday in like one sitting. Something like that. It was so good. Oh my god. I didn't know after the end of Knots and Crosses, I wasn't sure if I was gonna want to continue because the ending is like such a end, if you know what I mean if you've read the book. It's just like such a I don't know if I want to know what happens next, but I did, and I do. The main thing with this book, and generally this series so far, there's 2 more books, Checkmate and Double Cross, and I just want to read them now. I don't even want to do anything else, I just want to read these books. Because these books are merciless to the reader. You know how sometimes bad things happen in a book and then the author kind of alleviates them, or, you know, gives the character a break or gives him something nice in exchange for this fucking terrible thing that happened? No chance in the series. Like, bad shit happens, and bad shit keeps on happening, and there's like no reprise, not the right word. There's no reprieve. Is that the right word? I can't speak English anymore because this is just so fucking... I can't stop thinking about the ending of this book. To the people who had to wait for book 3, how are you still alive? Like, I could read the synopsis of book 3 and be like, okay. But to all of... Like, not the synopsis, but just like the, you know, little blurb thingy. But to the people who had to wait for that, oh God, my heart goes out to you, seriously. I feel so many things right now, can you tell? So that was it for all the 7 books I read. Also in the first few, like hour or something, hour or 2 hours of the Booktube-A-Thon, I also read the last 100 pages of The Magician's Apprentice by Trudy Kahneman, which was such a good book. This is just Trudy Kahneman. It's just no words. Like, everything she writes is perfection. Altogether, I read 2,676 pages this week. That is kind of ridiculous. What? Okay, so the longest book I had was, I'm not sure which one it is, but it had 459 pages. I think it might have been Fangirl. But the font is really big, so there's an extra count. And the shortest book was 305, which was Cursed. So that is all the stats for this week. I really enjoyed it. I love that I got through so many of my books, and this is like, for me, the main thing about the Booktube-A-Thon is kind of getting through some books that maybe you otherwise wouldn't technically want to read right this second, but the challenges kind of prompt you to. And then I actually enjoyed like every single one of my books this week except for Deep Blue, and that's okay. You know, it counted for 2 challenges, so whatever. So despite the fact I didn't finish all the challenges, I feel like this week was a success and I really enjoyed myself. Let me know in the comments how you guys did this week. If you did wrap-up videos, please post a link so I can check them out as well. And I will see you soon. Bye!